Hello and welcome to the Doubtless Do More podcast. I'm your host, Trudy Simmons, and today I am thrilled and excited to introduce you to Denise Duffield-Thomas, the incredible author, speaker, creator of the Money Bootcamp. Denise, this is so good of you to come and join us today, and I can't wait to have a conversation with you.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Trudy. We've known each other for a long time. I think you're probably one of the first people that I met in business back in our Australian B school days when I was, didn't really know that many other entrepreneurs. So you've been part of my network for a long, long time.
Yeah, it's about 15 years
Yeah.
that was. And yeah, meeting at conferences,
Yeah.
going to conferences as introverts. I remember you and I running away from one conference because it was too big.
Well, that's so funny because when you were talking just before we hit record about being introvert, I thought, is Trudy an introvert?
Mm.
Did I know that? I really absolutely see you as an extrovert, but then people say the same thing to me as
Yeah.
well.
That's the wonder, I think, of being an extroverted introvert. We can do all these things, but it's where we get our energy. And absolutely. I remember going to that big conference with you. There's about 700 people, and we sat at the back, and then you said, "Get me out of here." And I was like, "I'm with you, let's go." It was just too much. But I really was excited to talk to you about this doubting ourselves and how we as entrepreneurs get in our own way, can get in our own way, and where those doubts can seep in from other people and from ourselves. So, when was a time in your business when you have maybe doubted yourself the most?
Every single day, Judy. No, I would say different times for different reasons.
Mm,
So, of course, when you're first starting out, like anyone, there was so much doubt around, is this even a thing that I'm allowed to do? So I come from a town where not a lot of people, had fancy jobs or made a lot of money. And then I was the first person to go to university. And then my post uni friends all went into consulting. So I felt like I had my friends at home who had, quote unquote real jobs, and then my uni friends who were all in consulting. And so I was like, I want to be an online entrepreneur. And they were both sides were just like, that's not a thing.
mhm.
And especially when I started, it had this reputation of being a little bit scammy because people didn't realize that that was a real thing. Same with when I decided I wanted to become a life coach and a business coach. So many people were just like, that's not a thing. Like, that's a weird thing to do. And so I had to really seek out examples
Mm.
and surround myself with people who were in that world, because that first doubt was just like, I'm not even allowed to do this thing. This is not a real job. And then I think different points in my journey, it's been, who am I to grow, or who am I to succeed? Who am I to write a book? As you know, that's such a mental hurdle. When you said, you wrote your last book in 3 months, and people will ask how long it takes to write a book. And it's like the actual writing of it is not the thing. It's all of the doubt and fear and vulnerability that comes up around writing a book. So that was a big thing. When I wanted to have kids, I had a massive insecurity that you couldn't juggle both. And so I had to seek out examples of people who did that. Uh, Honestly, every single part of my journey. What does happen though is some things become a no-brainer. So for me, or easier, in my first couple of years doing an interview, I would have been up all night thinking about, oh my God, what am I going to say? Now it's not even a thing I have to think about. I get up in the morning and I go, oh, who am I talking to today? And literally when I got off my last call, I went, oh, I'm talking to Trudy next in 1 minute. Do not even have to think about it. I know I can talk, but there'll still be other things where I have insecurities around, like speaking on stage is still an edge for me. And that's the journey of entrepreneurship, right? You master something, there'll always be something that you'll feel fear and insecurity about. And so I like to tell people that very early on in their journey, that will never really truly go away, because sometimes we think the absence of those things is what we're aiming for. That's the go signal. As soon as I feel good about something, as soon as I feel confident, that will be my go signal to act. That day never comes. and you just have to just keep on going and surround yourself with people who can support you in that.
In that, what do you do when those doubts creep in? How do you move past it?
Well, I think now there's so many layers of protection around me that I've built up over the years that I can never truly fully go back. And those layers of protection can be lots of different things. It can be the groups that I'm in, the
Mm.
business networks that I'm in, the friendships that I've created from business, the clients as well. Sometimes I think I keep my mindset because I'm teaching it as well, but then also I need support outside of that. So I have a monthly kinesiology session, for example. A couple of times a year, I might need a bit of a tune up in other areas. Um, and having those things, it's really hard then. Like I can never be stripped fully of all of those things, right? It took years to sort of build those layers in. But even when I get into my car, what podcast automatically comes on? Is it doom and gloom, or is it something that's going to fill me up creatively? All of those things layer in, and you don't even realize, I think, then that becomes your protective kind of cushioning.
You're so right. And when you talk about mindset, and obviously this is something that you do day in, day out, I think for a lot of people, we feel like or think that we want to work on it, but we don't do it. So we talk about it and don't do it. And when you are stuck behind that feeling of I can't do it, it's not going to happen, and the doubts that creep in, it's debilitating. It can be debilitating, which yeah.
Yeah, it absolutely can. But especially if you're feeling lonely in
Mm,
it. And that's why you do need those layers of protection. So I'm in some Facebook groups I'm in that are free, you know, networking groups. There's some that I've paid to be in. So when I open up my social media, I live in Newcastle, Australia. I don't have a lot of entrepreneurial friends in this town, but I feel like I am surrounded by all these people who are, are rooting for my success
mm.
because I've curated those things. When I open up Instagram, I see beautiful things that I want to see, creative people and people living their dreams. And that helps too.
Yeah. How can
Yeah.
you be the chillpreneur, which you of course are,
Yep.
the chillpreneur, and have all these doubts around you all the time, and work on your mindset, and obviously the portrayal of who you are online, and I don't think that you're much different in person, honestly. So how do you all of those things up with talking about being a chillpreneur, but having to work on it all the time?
Because for me, a chillpreneur is someone who is path of least resistance
Mm,
and has a lot of self compassion. Because when you can have compassion for the fact that you are a human, you will have self doubt, and also everyone has self doubt, then you can kind of relax in that knowing. You can be a little bit more zen about that, to say that just the fact that I have these feelings does not mean that I'm not meant to be successful.
mm,
I have these feelings because everyone has these feelings. This is part of being an entrepreneur. This is part of my journey. And again, I think the gift that someone gave me in really my first year of this journey is I met this very successful millionaire, Ali Brown, and I was in a lift with her going down to the party. I never would have had the courage to ask her anything. And I said, Ali, I've got a really important question for you. When does the fear go away? And she said, never. And it was such a gift because I stopped looking for the fear to go away. I
yeah.
just realized, well, that's just part of it. And it's, of course, I'd be scared. Like, of course,
Mm,
you can have compassion for yourself. And so one of the practices that I do a lot is tapping, EFT.
mm.
And I actually taught it to my real life tapping teacher, as in tap dancing, this week because she had some auditions this week. And I said, have you ever heard of tapping? And she's like, we just did a tap lesson. And I said, no, it's EFT. And I was like, it really helps you deal with your fears. But because of the affirmation that you say the bad thing out loud, even though I'm nervous or even though I have self doubt, you finish with, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And does that mean that we do that all the time? Absolutely not. Of course, we're going to still feel self doubt and we're going to feel critical and all those things. But what we're just trying to do is to reassure ourselves, I love and accept you.
Mm.
And then you can recognize the humanity in yourself. I think we're really good at recognizing it in other people and not so much ourselves. And I've been there too. I've gone, well, it's okay for that person to do that. It's okay for them to do that, but I'm not allowed to do that. And we are. So self-compassion, I think, is the best thing for being a chillpreneur, because it's not saying you're not working. It's not saying that money's just going to fall from the sky. It's literally just being zen about, I can't control the fact I'm going to have self-doubt.
Yeah.
I can't control that. So I can just relax and go, it is what it is.
I think EFT is fascinating, and I've known about it for years. I did it in Australia for a long time, and the way that it can take you to the brink of that feeling of absolute and utter fear, and then something in your brain literally changes, the chemistry changes, and that fear dissipates. It doesn't go, but it does dissipate. And I think
Yeah.
that's, yeah, anybody that hasn't tried it, absolutely try it and see what can happen in something like that, because it's, yeah, amazing.
Yeah, it really is. I still do it a lot before speaking gigs because I do get really nervous. And I have a lot of self doubt when it comes to speaking gigs, actually. I start to go, I have nothing to say, and especially when I'm sitting down doing my slides, I always just go, what am I going to tell you? I have nothing to say. I have nothing to offer. And I really have to do a lot of tapping on that. And even when I'm just feeling a bit off, sometimes I'll just do I deeply, completely love and accept myself.
Mhm.
And that's enough to switch it sometimes. It's also a great thing to teach kids. So all my kids know how to tap. And I can see it does lift a lot of self doubt for them.
That is such a wonderful thing to say as well, especially you as a mum of three, always busy, I can imagine, with three little ones running around. But teaching kids
Yeah.
these things that we now know, that we would never have known if we hadn't been through, I think, this entrepreneurial journey, for them to have some of this knowledge that can help them in so many situations that are different to the way that we grew up is brilliant.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. You talk about manifesting, and one of the things that I loved when you first started out was talking about manifesting with action. And I'm all about taking action and getting things done. And with that
Yeah.
feeling of the manifesting, talking about what you want, and then the actual taking action, there is a bit in between all that where we self-sabotage, where we let every block come in the way. Talk to me, Denise. Get me through it.
Oh, gosh, I love talking about manifesting because I think when I first learned about it, probably with a lot of people with The Secret, that's how I kind of
Mm.
first learned about it. Um, I felt a lot of imposter syndrome around it because it felt to me like something I had to really earn and be perfect in my thoughts around. And so it felt like another thing that I had to be pure at. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I have to, really be mindful about my thoughts and I have to write down my goals all the time. And I didn't really understand from a practical point of view what you had to do. So I kind of came up with a little bit of my own formula around it. And so step number one for me is always decluttering. And this can take many forms. Sometimes if I don't know what to do, I'll literally do physical decluttering and just anything to shift the energy. But the more that you can do intentional decluttering around it is super important. So it could be uh, like getting rid of old business stuff that reminds you of failures. It could be making space in your calendar for more clients. It can be very intentional. Every time I want to sell a house, I always start literally packing and getting rid of things.
Yeah.
But I also say in my money boot camp, when in doubt, shave your legs. And it's just something about doing something, when you just feel paralyzed, it's
Yeah.
like, go have a shower, exfoliate, shave your legs. You'll feel lighter after that. And so it's almost a literal and a metaphorical thing. Um, and I really love that as a concept, right? Create space for what is coming. The next step is to decide what you want in big and small ways. So I find when I've taught goal setting to people, some people go completely blank. And it's really fascinating. Or say, okay, let's just take 2 minutes and write down everything that you want to be, do, and have, for example. You'll see people and they're paralyzed with it. They're almost like, I can't waste the paper in case I get it wrong. Or what if I ask for something and I'm not going to get it? What if, I sometimes people are convinced that if they ask for something, the opposite will happen. They'll jinx it somehow. And I really feel like then it's a really good opportunity to go back and actually declutter emotions around that or experiences around that, because sometimes as children, we had experiences where that did happen, where we wanted something and we were disappointed. And so we were taught we're not even allowed to ask, and we're not even allowed to have preferences. And a really great way to practice this is to go into a shop, and before you look at the price tag, allow yourself to go, what colors do I like? Allow yourself to try things on without looking at the price tag, because sometimes we don't know what we want, where we have to practice that muscle. Go to a restaurant and look at the menu without looking at the prices, without automatically thinking, oh, I have to have this, and to go, what do I feel like? I practice this all the time because I know I have to work that muscle of preference and asking. And we can go down a real rabbit hole on this. I remember doing a whole session around Christmas and other gift giving holidays to say to people, how are your experiences around that showing up today in how you ask for things? And so some people's families have a very open relationship with asking. So it's like, this is what I want for my birthday. This is what I want for my Christmas. This is the color that I want. And in some families, you're not allowed to ask at all. In some families, you're allowed to choose. And in some families, you get what you get and you don't get upset, which in the UK, you guys say you don't throw a fit. It doesn't rhyme. It does not rhyme. It annoys me so much because I have English relatives, but it's like, so you have to undo some of that stuff, because manifesting is really hard if you don't know what you're asking for. How are you going to get it if you're not willing to be specific? And so I find a lot of people get really tripped up there. And that's okay, because again, it's a practice. So you can practice in those small ways, like I mentioned, going into shops, allowing yourself to feel the pleasure of things. For a long time, growing up, I shopped in like thrift stores and secondhand stores. So I didn't know what colors I liked and what sizes, because it was like, whatever's there, whatever's available, right? And it took me a long time to go, I'm allowed to have things that fit. I'm allowed to have things that don't have holes in them and rips in them. So, and that's not even a rich, poor thing. You might have grown up rich and you still weren't allowed to choose. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You're not allowed to. And so I always say to people, it's like calling up the pizza place and saying, send me a pizza. And they go, what do you want? And you go, whatever you think I would like, whatever you think I deserve. And they go, just tell me what you want. So that is absolutely a practice and something you can get better and better at as you go through and get better at manifesting. So that's decluttering and asking what you want. There's a lot in that, right? Step 3, though, is surrounding yourself with pleasure and possibility and good things, because that is a practice in itself. I'll see people say, I want to manifest $1 million. I want to manifest a lottery win. And I'm like, great, let's look at your daily life and see what we can upgrade so you can start to feel like a millionaire would feel. And they're like, but the money hasn't come in yet. And it's like, well, you're worthy of getting a fresh tea bag now, but you're not allowing yourself to do that. So why would the universe send you abundance? Because you cannot receive it in any way, right? And so what can you upgrade in your life so you can feel good now? And this also helps then to be able to hold and receive good things that come in without pushing them away, without sabotaging it. So I like to look at everything in your life here. When I was saying about writing down goals before, I've never been a good goal setter. And I've got so many diaries. I had a photo shoot recently and I was like, oh, I need diaries for the photo shoot. In 5 minutes, I found like 10 blue diaries. None of them have been written in, by the way, right? And so I'm not a good goal setter, but I have so many layers in my life of things that remind me of my goals. And this could be, you look at your day and go, what sound do I hear first thing? So when I was wanting to manifest my beach house, I would play music that reminded me of being by the beach. That like chill music that's playing at like funky Bali resorts
Yeah.
and stuff. So I would listen to that. I would light a candle that smelt like the ocean in a blue glass jar. I started creating my house in this beachy kind of way. And what that does, and it can be visual, it can be auditory, it could be olfactory, it could be all these different things. What that does is to get you in that mentality already. And it helps you develop your preferences. And it helps you decide what you want. It just gets you in that space. Okay. So that's the surrounding, and literally look at it from all aspects, all layers of your life. It makes you feel good, which really helps for step number 4, which is the action piece that we were talking about. I find that when you have all of those pieces in play, you just have a little bit more confidence. So when I would light that beach candle, it just gave me 1% more confidence to send an email, to post on social media, to make a video. Okay, that's what that step number 3 does, is to give you that a little bit of belief that this is inevitable. So all I'm doing with this action, I'm just walking towards it. And all these baby steps really count. Step number 5 is the hardest one. It's receiving. It's actually when those opportunities come in, say yes, instead of saying, I'm not ready, I'm not ready, I'm not ready. And a great way to practice this is to receive compliments. I sucked at this, and I still do sometimes. And I noticed myself, it was at ballet, and someone said, I just love watching you do ballet. She said, I can't, it's just so beautiful to watch you do the thing. And I started to say, blah, 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 blah. It's not really blah, blah, blah. And I just stopped and I went, oh my God, look at me deflecting. I said, thank you. I received that. It brings me so much pleasure to dance. And thank you for noticing it. And that can be the hardest thing, just to say, thanks for noticing, instead of, oh, this old thing, like this, let me show you the rip in it, or whatever it is. And receiving, you think, well, who cares if it's a compliment? How are you going to receive more abundance and joy and a life better than you even imagine if you can't even receive a compliment that's for free? And then you work your way up. So how many times do you reject abundance in your life? If someone's, oh, let me pay for your coffee, you go, no, like, thank you, that's so nice, I received that. It's so tricky to do. And then you just repeat the 5 steps over and over again, because inevitably you're going to find roadblocks at each one to go, oh my God, I can't receive. Why can't I receive? Oh, it's because of this. And then you might go and declutter again, number 1, and you go, look at all these things I have in my life that I felt obligated to keep because I can't really receive what I really truly love. What are my issues around receiving? Oh, I remember this birthday that I had at blah, 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 and I was told that I was ungrateful. And so I had to be, it's just such a beautiful cycle, and you can start just going around and around and around again. But each of those things, it does stick. So when I was saying, even if I do get knocked around, and have that self-doubt, I've got so many of these layers built in. I can't go back to ground zero. I kind of go, oh yeah, okay. And it doesn't derail me for months and months. You get more resilient in it.
I absolutely love hearing this, because that is so clear and it's so manageable and actionable and implementable, all those wonderful things. But it's also the fact that I love talking about business strategies. Everybody needs business strategies in place. But without those things in place, that's where we get stuck. And whatever business strategy you put in place, it's hard to take those next steps when you don't have a clear mindset in place.
Oh, absolutely. Business is easy. Writing a book is easy. You just sit down and you type until it's done. That's not the hard bit.
Yeah.
The hard bit is all the stuff in your brain of, I'm not good enough, blah, 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 blah. Business, it's so easy, isn't it? If we just sat down and did it. And I think it's so tricky for women. And I do see it different when I go to male-driven things. Someone had me on their podcast the other day talking about ad strategy, and she's saying, what's the difference? And I say, a lot of times men just go, I'm going to do Facebook ads and I'm going to put the money into it and I'm going to do it. Whereas women do, all our visibility stuff comes up. Am I cheating by doing ads? Is it ethical to give money to Mark Zuckerberg? Like, we've got all this stuff that goes on. And yes, I am stereotyping here a little bit, but I do see that is the biggest thing for women. We just psych ourselves out and we overthink things. And we're so hard on ourselves.
The hardest question that I see being asked to any businesswoman that I have dealt with in the last 15 years is, what do you want? And you've just said that. And it is that when you put that question to someone, it's the deer in headlights of, I don't know. And that's the first response. And getting beyond that, that pen to paper bit is the first step to what can happen next. And in moving through the doubt, in manifesting, in taking action, in moving through self-sabotage that you might be putting in your way. And yeah, you're absolutely right. That's a clear mindset strategy. Thank you. Do you think that in everything that you have achieved, accomplished, with the success that you have had, do you think that it feels more successful when you have moved through something to get there? Or for you, is it easier when it is just chill? It just comes.
Oh, great question. I don't know, because I feel like sometimes we make things harder than they need to be to feel like we earn it. It's like, oh, I know it would be easier if I hired someone to do it, but how about I just go the roundabout way and burn myself out first just to see? And it's like, yeah. So, but other times we just naturally fall into things that feel good to us. So I don't know. I feel like I've done both for sure. I've done the chill way and I've done the hard way.
Okay. I love,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
I love that success can come either way as well. It doesn't have to be hard. We don't have to make these things hard on ourselves, but it is. Oh, Denise, I could talk forever. This has been absolutely amazing, and thank you so much for those steps that you've just clearly given people in talking about the doubt, but how you can move through it in just being sure, believing in yourself, moving through it, and getting to the other side, which you have done over and over on a daily basis.
Oh, absolutely. And it never ends. There's no income level that is the cure for that.
Mm.
And so I think that's the last message I want people to hear is, why not you? Because everyone feels that way too. And so I think, you've done that so well with your books, for example, of just going, why not me? I'm allowed to write a book. And I always think of, your Crazy Daisy. What's the full title for your Crazy Daisy book?
Shine on you, crazy daisy.
Shine on You, Crazy Daisy. And it's just such a beautiful title. But you no one like has bestowed on us, okay, confidence. Oh, okay, you're going to be an author. We had to just go, I'm just going to do it. You know, that's it. And you have to just go, why not me? And what the funny thing is, I don't know if you found this too, Trudy, when I self-published my first book and I put author in my bio in my email signature, and every day I looked at that and went, oh my God, I'm not an author. I'm not an author. But then people would say to me, oh, you're an author. And I'd go, I guess I am. Like, they believed me because I did the thing.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, if they think I'm an author, maybe I am an author. And I still feel that way. I go, oh no, I totally tricked Hay House into doing a couple of books with me. I'm not really an author. And everyone feels that. But I know if I wrote another book, people would go, well, of course you did, because you're an author. So the more you do, the more people will believe you. It's so wonderful.
But and I think enough people have read your books to know that you are indeed an author.
I guess I am.
Take the
Yeah,
compliment.
but I still feel like I'm not, right? And
Yeah.
so that's that thing of, don't wait for that fear to dissipate completely, because it's never going to feel like the right time, right? There's always going to be Mercury's in retrograde. And I find that especially now, because we are in such a crazy time in the world, you can think, well, I'll wait until there's a quiet time in the news cycle.
Mm.
There's not going to be. I realized that 4 years ago. I was like, if I wait, there's never going to be an appropriate time to launch something, to talk about something. And so why not now? Why not me? And that question has really served me my whole life. And I know it will continue to, of like, even, now doing less stuff in my business. It's like, well, why not me? I'm allowed to do this as well. That will really help everybody to ask that to yourself. No one is looking at you going, oh God, why is she doing that? They're just going, good for her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Look around for the good things. Easy, much easier.
absolutely.
Thank you so much for being here, for being on the podcast, and I can't wait to see what you do next.
Oh, my pleasure, Trudy. Oh, can I just plug one thing if that's
Yeah,
okay? Because I know I talked about the manifesting formula. I actually have a free mini course around this if anyone's interested in those steps, because I do talk very fast. It's just at denisedt.com/manifest. And
brilliant.
it will go through those 5 steps for people if that will help. But otherwise, yeah, I'd love to connect with people on Instagram, Denise DT as well. And yeah, thanks for letting me come on your podcast, Trudy. It was so nice to catch up with you. And yeah, big hugs to everyone out there listening.
Thank you.